for undergraduate programs in the College of Education. So often when you get emails, they come from me. I'm also a former high school English teacher, so secondary ed people, you are my people. One of the things that I wanted to do at today's meeting was to hand out this job search book. It's got some really very useful information. So I would recommend that you not immediately recycle it, but that you read it, look for some of the really good information about how to prepare for an interview, how to make sure your resume is appropriate, how to make yourself stand out against your competition, etc. Once you're done with it, then you should recycle it, okay? But it's got some really good stuff in it. If friends of yours were not able to come today, we have additional copies in the Office of Teacher Ed. They can pick one up there, okay? Questions about this? Okay, so I'm going to introduce Nick Belloc, who's standing here looking very dapper. Nick is the Assistant Director of the Professional Teaching Standards Board, PTSB. The PTSB is the Wyoming agency that licenses educators, okay? So every state has its own teacher licensing agency. In Wyoming, ours is the PTSB. My strong recommendation to all of you is that when you finish your program and you're ready to get a job, regardless of what state you want to go to, I would strongly recommend that you get licensed in Wyoming. It's the most direct, easy way to get licensed is to get licensed in the state where your teacher preparation program is, okay? And then you can use your licensure in Wyoming as a basis on which you transfer into other states if you decide to go teach somewhere else. Does that make sense? So Nick, in addition to being the assistant director of the PTSB, is also a former classroom teacher. He's got great street cred with me, and I hope also with you. He's going to give you some information today about how to go about the process of getting licensed as a teacher in Wyoming, and then also some really important information about professionalism and ethical decision making in classroom settings. This is not only about how you behave as a professional educator and protect the children and teenagers who are under your charge, but also how you kind of keep an eye out for how those children and teenagers are being treated by other adults in the building, right? We are here to make sure that the children and teenagers in our care are not harmed. That's kind of the bottom line for all of us. So I hope that you'll give him your attention. I'm going to have to scoot out of here and go to another meeting because that's all I do, all the meetings, all the time. So I hope that if you have questions about our process here, how you get your institutional recommendation for licensure, anything about our program, feel free to email me or call me. My email address is lrush@uwio.edu. I love getting emails from students who are not on improvement plans because that's a lot more fun. Okay, so feel free to shoot me an email if you have a question or anything like that. Does anybody have a question before I head out? Okay, thank you for coming. I appreciate your presence. And we got some faculty members in the back as well.
So, welcome. Thank you very much for your attention. My name is Nick Belloc. I work at PTSB. I am a previous teacher in elementary, so you guys are not my people. But we still have some stuff in common, and really we have a couple things that we really want to talk about today, which is licensure, how to get licensed, what to expect once you actually do graduate, and then some ethical expectations too, some preventative medicine, if you will. What I've tried to do in this presentation is I've tried to really scale it down. Yesterday we were here with 2 other people from my office, plus a person from the Wyoming Education Association. There was weather, so I drew that a short straw, and I'm the only one here now, and they don't get stuck here tonight. But luckily there's a ukulele concert in the Performing Arts Building, and I'm really excited about doing that. So that's where we're at. So really what we're going to do here is talk about licensure. So we're going to start with licensure, and before we get into that, we're going to give you a little carrot. So if you fill out this survey and the scavenger hunt as we go through the presentation, you fill this all out, you submit the survey, you could be entered to get $100 off your license, which really means that instead of paying $150 for your in-state license, you only have to pay $50. So it's not bad. If you look around, there's not too many people here. Your odds of winning are pretty good. So fill it out. Give us some honest feedback. We really appreciate the feedback from yesterday because we cut the performance down a lot right now, which is going to be beneficial for you. So let's get into it. So again, our objectives today is how to get licensed. So take all the questions away from that. Be successful if you leave here without any questions. And number 2, identify the importance of professionalism in your educational career. It's too important. I see a lot of people writing on their surveys already that they found out that those are the first 2 things that you need to program. So, first of all, what you're going to have to do in order to get licensed is, first of all, go to our website and download an application. How many people have a substitute license here? I'm pretty sure everybody, right? So the good news is you've got a substitute license. One of the things that you don't have to worry about when you get your standard license, if you choose to get licensed here in Wyoming, is you don't have to worry about fingerprints. So you're already done, you're in the system. All you have to do is fill out your application, download an application page for initial licensure, and then essentially follow the directions. Fortunately, some of those directions are multifaceted directions, and you don't get to do it every single day. So a lot of educators make some mistakes, which is why we're here to tell you how to avoid those mistakes. So we separated this into 6 parts. I'm going to go by each part one by one and tell you what to really pay attention to in those 6 parts, and then nobody will have any problem with their license, and everybody will get licensed really quickly. Sound good? All right. Number 1. This is the cover sheet of your application page. This has legal questions. It also has just some employment questions to it. Make sure you fill that out very correctly. You'll see in the first part, of course, please print correctly. Please make sure that you use blue or black ink. Reason being, some people use pink ink and we can't read it. So blue or black ink, please, and make sure that you fill out everything. And I'll get to a point 2 in a couple slides right now. Some people actually forget to sign their application. Please sign your application. It's really important. We'll have to send it back to you, and it increases your processing time a lot. Number 2, this is one of the other pages in our application, which is telling us what you're applying for. Because we need to know exactly what you're applying for, so we're checking classroom teacher tells us you're a classroom teacher, and then you have 3 things you have to remember. You have to remember your IR, which is the institutional recommendation, which is a couple slides. Your official transcripts with your degree endorsement area posted or listed, and then if your social studies, any social studies people here? How many of those social studies people have taken Praxis already? Excellent. You have taken Praxis. You're going to have to make sure that you have those Praxis scores either in our office, so you can call our office to make sure that those Praxis scores are already in there, or you can really safeguard it, copy off the Praxis sheet with your score listed, and then submit that paper back. Okay? You guys with me so far? Not too much. Fees. We accept pretty much anything but American Express. So send in your credit card documentation, checks, make sure they're payable to PTSB. Again, we already talked about how much it's going to cost. Since you are in-state, since you are at the University of Wyoming, you're considered an in-state applicant. Here, if you hail from Kentucky or wherever, graduated at the University of Wyoming, you're in-state. So you get $50 off, and if you're still paying attention and filling out your survey, you may get $100. So, any questions on payments? Pretty cut and dry. Payment page, of course, too, if you're going to pay with a credit card, fill in that, make sure it's signed as well. Sometimes payment processing, especially when you are all going to get your licenses, sometimes those periods are really long in terms of what we're getting in. So we get a lot of applications in May, bless you, and sometimes it takes 6 to 8 weeks, 10 or 12 weeks, depending on our application level. So not signing something means we have to contact you, which means you have to send it back in. We process in date order, but we still have, it could take longer time. Number 4 is official transcripts, which degrees posted. This is really important. This is sometimes where teachers make a mistake. So your official transcript with degree posted, I'll say it one more time, your official transcript with degree posted is something really important to have. A lot of people want to be prepared and get their application in as quickly as possible. So they send their official transcripts because they're done, but there's no degree posted on the transcript, and we can't accept that. The only exception is, are there any people doing post-bac here? So your degree, you're not going to have specifically a degree in education here. And that's when we're going to get to the institutional recommendation. So this is kind of an exception. You're an exception to this rule. You won't necessarily have a degree posted, like secondary social studies. You'll have your degree, and then we'll work with Leslie and her office, Vicki Nelson, to show you exactly what you need to do. So your main important thing is to make sure that that institutional recommendation is filled out. Does that make sense? And I can go into our rules and regulations to tell you why that is, but that's boring. And you don't want to know that. You just want to know that post-bac people, that institutional recommendation with Vicki Nelson and Leslie Rush, and making sure that that's done, that's your golden ticket. Everybody else, you need a degree posted. Any questions on that? You do come back, because it's fresh in your mind right now, and you're like, oh my gosh, what about this degree thing? Call us. Our office is 777-7291. Google us, call us from Google Pay or your phone, I'm sure you can do that. Any question, there's no question that's too small for us. We really want to be a resource. The institutional recommendation. When I first started with PTSB, all the licensing specialists referred to this as the golden ticket. We see this, and it's filled out by the associate dean, certification officer of your college. This is basically what are you able to be licensed in. They sign off on it, they put the college seal, the emboss the college seal on it, and say this is what this educator did. So there's a lot of legal stuff up here. They're supposed to read it. They know how to read it. They fill out tons of these every single year. And it tells our office exactly what you are able to be licensed in, your endorsement area. So again, Vicki Nelson, Leslie Rush, make sure that you have this and get this filled out, signed by them, and make sure that that degree is posted unless you're posted. Make sense? Kind of confusing you. Is it confusing anybody else? Go ahead.
Yeah, do we have to ask them for it, or are they just going to fill it out?
You will have to ask them. And that's a great question. So typically, once your degree is posted, as soon as your degree is posted and you know it is, there should be a race to Leslie's office or to Vicki's office to say, get my institution IR, my institutional recommendation filled out. Because it's first come, first served. So if you're the first one, pretty much quick turnaround that day, they'll get it right back to you. Okay? So it is kind of that first come, first served. You have to be the person that sets that in motion. They're not going to tell you, hey, your institutional recommendations are. You have to kind of pay attention to that.
Hey Nick,
Yes?
you guys turned into the Office of Teacher Ed 100 McWhinney. That's the location you turned it in.
Office of Teacher Ed, 100 McWhinney. Sir?
So I am a postdoc student. Does that mean that at what point can I make the request for the institutional recommendation?
Once you have all of your classes that you've taken, so your practicum, all those classes are done and listed on your transcripts, then that's going to be the time.
And that includes the student teaching in the spring?
That's correct. Yeah. And really what's a post-bac is, it's kind of like the sum of the parts equals the whole, right? So post-bac people already have a graduate degree. They're adding parts of the educational degree that they didn't necessarily already have. So pedagogy and all that stuff to create what we call in licensure terms substantial equivalency. So you have a substantially equivalent academic background to become a teacher that's equal to a traditional route licensure program in an institution of higher education. That's the legal moment of it. Okay? Number 6, Praxis test results. I already talked about this. You guys are not elementary, you're only social studies, so those social studies people make sure that you do that. And here's why. I always ask why. So what's the purpose of that? So technically, if you don't pass the Praxis, we can still license you. But the caveat to that is no district's really going to hire you because right now, you have to be highly qualified in social studies. So if you're not highly qualified in social studies, they're not going to hire you because they can't legally have you in a classroom in Wyoming under federal law. So that's kind of where that is. We have 2 highly qualified areas, elementary education and social studies. So it's kind of one of those things like, you gotta have it, Try to make sure you do that, especially if you're going to be marketable. You're going to go to the teacher fair sometime this early spring at the Rochelle Center. Some people are going to hire you on the spot. I mean, hopefully, really great thing, isn't it? They're going to want to know, is that passed, or that Praxis passed? Kind of the method to that madness is they want to make sure that you're highly qualified. If you're not, they can't pay you. Kind of what it comes down to. So, this right here is just a little kind of run-through page of, typical things that we see that prolong an application from being processed. I would say the number one thing is people don't turn in a complete application. If you don't turn in a complete application, our licensing specialists have to fill out a 30-day notice and send it to you and ask you for the stuff that's still needed. That takes a long time for them to get your application and then for them to actually send out that letter, especially if they're processing in date order. So they can get your application on June 4th, but they're working on applications for May 15th. So they're going to have to work towards June 4th, that date, to find out that you don't have your stuff in, and then prolong that process even more. Do you see where I'm going with that? So a complete application really saves a lot of time and frustration for both people, because we don't like to send out letters to tell you that you don't have enough stuff, and we don't like people saying, but I sent it in the 15th, and we're like, well, we're processing in date order, and it just creates unnecessary conflict. So, number one, most applications that cannot be processed are because they did not fully read and follow the directions. So, really try to read those instructions. When submitting your transcripts, your degree must be posted. I think I've said that 5 times. Really important, it happens all the time. So, in the winter months, applications usually take 2 to 6 weeks to process. Right now, since we're like around Christmas and there's not a lot, it's probably like less than a week. So, we're in really good shape right now. But as it gets into May, it's crazy. So the quicker you can get that IR, repack it, the quicker you'll be licensed. Applicants sometimes prolong the application process by not paying the correct amount. So again, you're in state, $150 unless you're the lucky $100 winner. Okay? Don't forget a signature, I said that, and staple or paper clip a check. Oftentimes we get the whole manila envelope and things like that, and there's lots of papers that sometimes if you download our application, you throw out a ton of papers and things like that. If you have a loose check in there in a weird place, we still handle stuff and there's still human error. We had one check that we lost. Fortunately, last summer we didn't recycle the whole box that check was in and we found that check. But if the check was stapled or paper clipped, it would have been really horrendous. So do our best that we can just to make sure everything's there, but there still is human error. You can really prevent that by paper clip or statement. And a personal statement. I'm not going to ask the question how many here need to have a personal statement, because that's really awkward, but people do. There are some things in our past that happen. Minor possessions, that stinks, it happens, it's college. Does that mean you can't get licensed? No. But do you have to report that? Yes. Unfortunately, that's the scarlet letter that you have to bear. Any English majors in here? Okay. So, every time you submit an application, you're going to have to do a personal statement. And I'm sorry, my main job at PTSB is discipline, right? And I hate seeing that because there's a lot of these teachers that submit their application that say, in 2004, I was at a party and I got an MIP. The next day, I got a DUI. How did you do that? I don't know. I'm not like quoting falsities here. This is true. The point is, you have to report it. It's in our rules and regulations, and we have to have it, and it has to match your background check. So, if anything's happened since the time that you have been a substitute teacher, you have to report that. If you don't, there is some rules and regulations that we can take action on your license if you actually did not report it, you failed to report it, and you could be in some hot water. So, report it. We have a discipline matrix. If you want to talk about a hypothetical situation with me, hey Nick, I had 2 MIPs, and then the next week, I had petty theft. It's happened. When I get licensed, I would tell you, probably yeah. Again, how long ago was it? There's a lot of things that we do within our discipline matrix, within our board, that says, well, what was the nature of it? Does it prevent you from becoming a teacher? Were you 18 and not really thinking? Or was it last week and you should know better? I mean, this is what our board does. I don't make this decision. Subcommittees of the board actually make these decisions. So if you're concerned, if you have anything in your background, you need to report it. If you don't report it, and you find out you didn't, it's way worse of a situation. Okay, so that's licensing. Any questions about licensing? How do you feel about filling out that application packet? Pretty good? Any questions about the application packet? If you have questions, do you feel confident enough to call us? Please do. I know there's going to be a lot of time between now and when we actually get that reposted, or not a post back. But please call us. We got a lot of people that are ready to answer a lot of different questions. We get questions all the time. So instead of assuming, even if it's a small question, you feel like, oh, that's a stupid question, I should know that. Call us. It's fine. That's what we're doing. So, we're going to jump into the next section of the presentation. I'm going to do a quick time sheet. So 22 minutes. I'm going to try to do this in 20 minutes because the one thing we have in mind, maybe, instead of secondary and elementary is, we're between me going home and you going home. So, when I'm done, I'm done. So, we'll see if we can get this quickly, but purposely. I don't want to draw this out. Another thing I don't want to do is scare you about things, but if you get anything, and if I want to just kind of establish a purpose in this, it's a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about I see. Again, I told you that my main responsibility is educator discipline in PTSB. We have 3 responsibilities. We do educator licensure, educator discipline, and then we approve programs for the college year that lead to educator licensure. Those are our 3 main functions. Educator discipline is what I do every day. So, am I kind of hypersensitive to it? Yeah. Was I a teacher? I was. And did I think it couldn't happen? I was kind of in that mindset. But right now, going through a lot of these things and seeing the stuff that comes across my desk, heck, the stuff that's in my locked drawer, is enough to make a person be like, gosh, really? That happened? I'm here to say, yes, it did happen. And what I want to do is, I don't want to scare you. I want to help your thinking in order to prevent that. I want to prevent it from happening to you. I also want to prevent it from happening, number 1, to any students that potentially could be impacted. And I want you to be a resource to your colleagues and everybody else, too, that are at your school, because it's a responsibility that you have to hold others to a high ethical code and character as well. So that's kind of my public service announcement to that. Yes, I'm hyper-vigilant about it. But yeah, I was also a teacher. And the stuff I've seen done to some people in this state and then in the national organization that I've seen. So give me the benefit of the doubt as I kind of take you through this. So we have this new thinking of the educational continuum of responsibility. What we're really thinking about here is how do you think as a teacher, what's imparted on you as a teacher? What do you impart on yourself? What does your community impart on you? What does the Professional Teaching Standards Board impart on you? And what do we do and when do we do that? Because right now you guys are pre-service educators. So what do you need to know about right now in order to successfully be a professional, not just to present content, but to do so in a professional manner? We'll talk about initial licensure and some of those expectations. And in-service professional development. Is there a responsibility for you to continue to sharpen your skills as a professional educator in your content area? Yeah. It's a responsibility for you to continue to sharpen your professional skills in your ethical and moral character through the continuum of your career. And lastly, as continued licensure, the other part that we're kind of talking about here is how do you do that? How do you establish that culture within your classroom, within your building, within your district, within the state? So that's kind of the thinking that has started here. So, looking back at your survey and your questionnaire and your scavenger hunt, each professional or profession has ethical expectations on its own members to uphold their responsibility towards preserving the sanctity of trust of those who are under their authority in their position as a professional. Trust. So, we'll shake this up. We've been talking a lot. I need to do a quick quiz, so can I pick on you? Excellent. You're going to use your teacher voice. Can you stand up? You're not going to have to answer any questions for the next 2 minutes. All right. So, to negatively influence a student for a lifetime takes how many decisions? You're one for one. How often are teachers expected to make a decision in a typical school year? Before you answer that, I want everybody else to talk to your neighbor partner. How many decisions are you going to make? You've actually done a study on this. All right, bring it back. What do you think? 1,500? Anybody else? Greater than 2?
We're English majors, small Thousands.
Thousands. It's in the thousands, so it's like basically greater than 2,000. It's more than 1,000. It's thousands of decisions every single day. And those decisions aren't just, what am I going to teach? Or when you're in your practicum going, do I actually have to go today? It's the decisions of what you're going to do and what those decisions actually do. What we're going to do is we're going to kind of diagram some stuff too of some of those decisions, and I'm going to be the devil's advocate of showing you some of the thinking that happens and some of the scenarios that have happened that other people have done. So we're learning from other people's lessons. Okay? Number 3. What are your professional responsibilities?
Oh, geez. To teach facts, to teach critical thinking, to inspire, to be on time, to be a good role model. Which direction do you want me to go in?
Hey, that's good. Those are responsibilities. Have you ever thought about the kind of foundation or frame structure that you put your professional responsibilities in? A lot of people like go to their district and say, hey, they've got a professional book that I have to go to, but I was in a district. Hardly anybody reads that. There's not really a frame of what your professional responsibilities are. In this next slide, I'm going to show you kind of the framework of thinking, kind of this new continuum of professional development. Lastly, Emily, what will you do if you find out you have not made a professional choice?
I think personally I would reflect and I would go to somebody who I trust and discuss the situation and how I can mediate it and fix it and learn from it.
That's pretty much the answer, right? What would happen if you found out you made a bad choice and you didn't really need to make a really good choice? Same thing?
Yeah, I think I would do the same thing because it's a learning experience. If you're making a bad choice early in your career, it's because you obviously did not understand something. So I think that I would seek to understand it.
Let's give a round of applause. I'm going to put some rules into effect right now. This is a group project, so essentially cheating is okay for those 4 people that need it right now. So, yeah, there's an ethical responsibility that we have, and there's a lot of different professional responsibilities that encompass your entire profession. And what we have here is we have some guidelines to actually what entail your responsibilities for professional behavior. This is kind of new thinking. This came out, these 5 tenets came out about a year and a half ago to start to organize professional thinking around our profession. So, you have a responsibility toward the profession, professional practice. You have a responsibility for professional competence. You need to know what you're teaching. And we put a trust in you to know that the things that you're teaching are being taught by competent educators. You have a responsibility to your students to treat them fairly, to treat them with respect, dignity. You have a responsibility to parents and guardians, colleagues, communities, and employers. And you have an ethical responsibility for your ethical use of technology. Get some diagnosis. So that's kind of where we're at right now. That's where we frame the newest thinking and teaching frames your responsibilities as an educator, what you're responsible for. And to kind of get into that, we talk about this ethical equilibrium. Because where are those expectations coming from? Hopefully they're coming from inside you. Because yes, you know better. You're a teacher. Why did you come into this profession in the first place? You didn't come in, hope, not to hurt students or, be a bad mark on your family. You're here to uphold the profession, have professional practice, and present the subject matter that you're passionate about. So that's kind of the dispositional framework. That's your disposition as an educator. Oftentimes, in the past, we really relied very heavily upon this disposition of teachers should know better. But now we're getting into the regulatory framework, which is really why I wear my suit and tie. Because I have to hold on to the rules and regulations of the PTSB. If you're licensed with our agency, that means we have jurisdiction over your license. And we hold you to the 9 chapters of rules that we have within our agency. And then there's the ethical framework, which is the professional ethical standards that guide decision making. And that's the new stuff that's coming up, and that's kind of the continuum of your practice. How are you going to intake into your school as a beginning professional? Are you going to continue to build yourself with your ethical framework as a teacher, and then hopefully, as you get into your teaching profession, as a mentor? Because you're imparting some of those dispositional attributes of you, you're modeling that, but you're also talking about your professional competence in terms of what you're actually called under from your district standpoint and from your licensing board standpoint. Any questions on that? Does that make sense? So it's kind of like educator licensure geek stuff that I just shared. But here's kind of the practical part. I'm not going to make you stare at this for a long time, but has anybody seen this optical illusion before? Yeah, stare long enough, the gray area disappears. As teachers, we operate in the gray area, right? There's really sometimes, there's always decisions that you make that you have the best intentions of doing something, and could be consequences for it. So teachers always have to make sure that they are really focusing in on what their professional practice actually is. We'll kind of get into some of those scenarios in just a minute, but the whole idea here is you have to operate in the gray area. So I have a kid, and all of a sudden I find myself alone with this kid in my classroom. Is that okay? Should I run out of my classroom right away? Because, if I look at my district has a policy that says, do not be alone with a student in the classroom. But guess what? The student's mother just passed away. The student is sobbing at the desk. The student trusts you. Is that operating in the gray area? You bet it is. And is anybody going to run out of the classroom right now and go try to find another teacher while the student is sobbing at their desk? Maybe you would. Maybe that's your dispositional framework. Maybe you wouldn't. So the thinking that goes around what you need to do as a teacher and what decisions you're making, really, you got to think about operating in that gray area. What are you going to do in that situation? So the whole idea of this optical illusion is teaching is not black and white. If you look at that black thing and say, this is what's wrong, this is what's wrong, this is what's wrong, you're missing the gray area. So you kind of always have to keep your eyes shifting in order to keep the gray area always at the forefront of your mind. Okay? And again, it's to keep you safe. It's to keep students safe, and it's to maintain your professional. So, there's a personal you, and there's a professional you. Let's see what I can write down. Excellent. So, a quick question that I'm going to pose to you. We all have expectations of how teachers are supposed to be professional in the classroom. What do you think is like the number one thing where teachers sometimes get to really forces them into a gray area, and then sometimes can force them into a slippery slope situation with student, parent, with members of the community? What do you think is kind of the conduit that gets teachers in that situation the most? Actions out in public? Friendships with the students?
Technology.
Technology. Bingo. Those are right. But the stuff that comes across my desk, most of the time, is technology. I have a case right now that's 6 inches thick. You know what it's filled with? Text messages. 6 inches thick of 8.5 by 11 pages of text messages between a teacher and a student. Yeah. So it's not a happy day for this teacher. But what I can see is there is this start of this relationship that could have happened in that classroom where that parent's mother just passed away and you're consoling that student, and then all of a sudden you're operating in the gray area, and then all of a sudden the student trusts you. You kind of develop this relationship that turns into a really trusting relationship, and before you know it, it's out of control. Right? That's what we see typically happening this day and age in terms of where teachers really find themselves getting in trouble. Other things, Snapchat. I'm not going to get too candid with you, but I've seen way more parts of teachers in Wyoming than I ever wanted to see. I'm not kidding. And guess what? It's been in the last few years. It happens. It happens. And teachers ride this slippery slope, and this stuff doesn't go away. People take pictures of phones. They think it's like, oh, it's just between me and you, and they take pictures of phones, and it gets out there. It's a problem that we have to address, and especially with secondary, we have some more opportunities, and I'll just be honest, that's the cases that we see. It's easy to get into there. If you want to get into the psychology of it, the new thinking in the psychology is we are social creatures, and technology forces us to be antisocial by being hypersocial. And we socialize through technology, and we want that one-on-one relationship. So oftentimes what happens is that one-on-one relationship happens through technology, and then all of a sudden feelings start to get, wow, I feel something for you. Wow, we're really texting a lot. Is it proper for a teacher to text a student at 2:38 in the morning? No. But I've got probably 500 examples sitting in my desk. Does that look good? No, even if it's innocent, it's at 2:38 in the morning. Guess where that phone is? That phone is in that student's bed. She's locked in her room. Does that look good? No, it doesn't. Does it look bad? Well, in that case, maybe not. It doesn't. But what you open yourself up to is 1,000 people interpreting what was your motive. And that context is really kind of lost. So that's where I'm saying be really careful. Phone number, when you're conversing with parents, sometimes what happens is I've spent time in my classroom. My parents loved me. I'm not trying to boast or anything. My parents loved me. They wanted my person. They tried to friend me all the time on Facebook and say, "Oh, Mr. Bell, I'm doing all this." And I said, "No, absolutely not." To this day, I have a phone in my coat and my personal phone. You know why? Because I keep my personal life and my private life completely separate. I'm not in the classroom right now. But do I want the state of Wyoming checking out my personal phone? You better. Absolutely. My wife refuses to text me on this phone, ever. Because my records, probably the state of Wyoming would never check. But if they did, if they have the right context of what I'm doing, probably not. And oftentimes what happens is you're in your principal's office or you're in the superintendent's office and they call you to the department and say, "Well, can you tell me about you saying this at this time of the day to this student?" And it creates a kind of dicey situation. So, personal you and professional you. I've given you enough examples. We know right now that apps are exploding. And apps really kind of have gotten a lot of teachers that have come across my desk very much in trouble. So really make sure that you separate that personal you and that professional. However, there are some apps right now that are coming out that help you become safe, because technology is not the devil. Technology is a wonderful instrument. In fact, if you look at the Joint Education Committee and legislation right now, we have a digital information technology plan from the Department of Education that goes through 2021. It says, bring your tablets to the classroom, make sure that there's tons of technology. So we still have to operate using technology, and right now we're getting some apps that help us use that in a safe way. That's regulated, that is traceable only to your classroom, not to your personal phone, and such. So, again, this is what people's mistakes and some of the things that I've seen happen. So, don't do drugs or alcohol or illegal substances. At the school, pretty much ever, I'm not saying like, don't go to the bar and have a beer, you're 21. However, you might want to manage that too. Students seeing you out in a different context. I'm not saying it's bad, but sometimes some of those things can get blown out of proportion too. There is one case that is not in Wyoming, but I think it was in North Carolina. A teacher went overseas to like Dublin, Ireland for the summer. This was a private school, mind you. I'm just giving you a kind of a situation. So she went to a Dublin bar, posted stuff on Facebook, was friends with parents on Facebook. Parents of the district got really mad, printed off a picture of her having a Guinness, and the district fired her. The licensing board didn't do anything. It's like, really, it just doesn't make any sense. But the district fired her. Was it right? This wasn't my decision. I mean, their licensing board said, that's fine, that doesn't really affect anything, but some of those decisions that kind of get you in trouble. You put your privacy on, if you didn't have your parents friending you on Facebook, that might not happen. Be honest with giving assessments. We've seen some test cheating. People getting caught with that. Confidentiality, especially you sped majors. You're going to be in some small towns. Word travels really quickly. There's something we call FERPA. ITEA, it's confidentiality that you have to keep very confidential, even in student records. So don't be blabbing around like, wow, Tommy got an A, he's doing so great, and you're talking to Tommy's friend's mom. Not professional. If there's anything financial you're dealing with, be honest, transparent, document, especially with like funds. How many of you are planning on being a coach? Yeah, well, sometimes you have grassroots coaching programs. Hopefully, I know Planning does a really good job in terms of funding sports and things like that, but so you're maybe the chess coach. You have a small chess club, and you're taking a field trip, and you take everybody's money in, and there's no place to kind of put that money, so you throw it in your account and then pay for it with your own funds. Everything seems transparent, right? But that's pretty against a lot of the financial and fiduciary responsibilities you have as a district employee. That's commingling public funds with private funds. It's a big no-no, and we really frown upon that. And we haven't necessarily pulled anybody's license and suspended licenses, but we've sent letters of, hey, the board sees that you did this, and we don't agree with it, stop it. So, and that goes to investigations and such. Email. Keep your email private, please. Text messages, I've already gone through that. If you text your kids, make sure that you have an approved way that your district is showing how to text kids. Sometimes it's a necessity, I understand that, but there's apps and things like that that keep you protected. So make sure that the district has a policy for that they can back you up. Because if you do it and it's against their policy, they will not back you up. So make sure that you ask them for the things. I already talked about Facebook and the internet. The internet goes for like district policy. And this is really quick. It's a kindergarten story, but I'll never forget it. I about fell on my seat. I was laughing so hard. It was an awful situation. And I was laughing really hard, but when you actually get down to it, it's kind of bad. So, kindergarten teacher, it's President's Day, and the kids are learning about the presidents of the United States of America. Where does the president live? The White House. So what does a kindergarten teacher do? Oh, I've got a smart board. Let's go to www.whitehouse.com. Not gov.com. Whitehouse.com is a porn site. It wasn't filtered by the district. You get 16 kindergarten students looking at the landing page for whitehouse.com. The teacher takes her teacher vest and goes, "Don't look!" and it's projecting on her, right? It was awful. The phone calls that had to happen after that, and it all turned out okay, as far as we know. But it was an awful situation that required a ton of work for that teacher to make sure that she got out of the woods. It was probably weeks worth of fallout for that to happen. So if you do that, the reason I laughed is because this kindergarten teacher was like the best storyteller I've ever heard in the house. It was hilarious for me. did this, I messed up, I'm so sorry, here's what I'm gonna do about it. And the situation was remnant, because they got on it like pretty slightly and it's good. So, anyway, be careful. So, the last part of this presentation is just a hypothetical. And what I want to do is I want to kind of just give you a little food for thought, because you need to understand that the decisions that you're making are multifaceted, and sometimes when you go down a road you didn't quite expect. And when they go down that road, I want you to be able to anticipate them, and then I want you to be able to really, it's about me. So you know what? The less cases that I have to deal with, the less work I have to do on the discipline side. And I can focus in on the stuff that I actually like. When cases come across my desk, it's not the best. It takes a ton of time. In fact, I figured it out. Like initially, when we do a complaint, it takes about $700 just to pull in a complaint. That's paying for my salary, for my executive assistant salary. That's paying for board member travel, potentially. That's paying for our attorney general, our prosecuting attorney general that takes a look at all these things. It's expensive. And guess where that money comes from? Your $150. I am paid by your licensing salary. I'm not paid by the state of Wyoming. You're completely paid for by your salary. And that's why we're here today, because we're trying to prevent this stuff. We're trying to make the best bang for our buck, and really when we're bogged down, that increases and has ramifications for the entire office. That increases licensing processing times. It does a lot of stuff. So this preventative medicine is kind of what we're working for. So, hypothetical. I have another volunteer. What a guy. This is what you guys bring it in. Sweet. So we do this, the last part of the presentation. Really kind of what we want to leave you with. All right, your name?
Tim.
Tim. Tim's in the parking lot. Where are you doing your practice on that? Gillette.
Well, student teaching.
Yeah. So your student teaching is going to be in Gillette. You excited about it?
Yep.
You can get paid for it?
No.
That's the thing. That's the teaching. Most other professions have paid internships. Teaching doesn't. So, it's a long day because you want to impress the socks off of your supervising teacher, the principal, potentially you want to work to that. Options are open. So, you've been in the classroom for a long time, and you're coming back, you've got your laptop case, and you're like, oh my gosh, that was such a long day. And Tim was like, gosh, it's a long, tough day, and he didn't get paid for it. And then all of a sudden, in this parking lot, in this high school parking lot, is, working at the high school?
Middle school.
Middle school. So which time you working at the high school?
High school actually has a park.
You're not good.
So there you
Go
go.
back to the house.
Get out of here.
You can be a coach, maybe?
Maybe.
Who knows? There's a middle school girl in the parking lot talking on her phone. It's like, man, that was something to pick me up. Mind you, it's 11 o'clock at night.
Oh, God.
What are you doing there?
Yeah.
Hey, you're trying to impress people. I mean, this is a running. They can see you.
The camera can see me.
I'll tell you what, that thing was a doozy. So, I mean, you're tired. You see this girl in the parking lot. There's nobody that's going to pick her up. So, what are you going to do?
Yo, have a safe walk home.
That's potential. But then that girl is abducted and put on an Amber Alert, and they find out that you have potential to safeguard that student. Option two?
Call one of the other teachers and be like, hey, there's a kid working around the parking lot.
Are you gonna call a male teacher or a female teacher?
Probably more than one, so maybe both. Probably an administrator, because then it seems more like their problem than me problem.
Whose problem is this anyway?
Kids.
It's not the kid's problem.
Is it mine now?
No, it's kind of yours, but whose supreme power is this?
Parents?
No, parents' property.
Oh,
You're on school property, right?
the school then.
Yeah. And who's the head teacher?
We gotta sue the principal
Yeah. Why does the principal get paid big bucks?
to deal with stuff like this.
Precisely, exactly. So you're gonna call the principal, right? The principal's gonna call you. You're going to get a call back from the principal that says, Tim, you know what, this is great. I really appreciate you helping out this girl, but I can't do it right now. I trust that you're going to find a great solution to this problem.
Just sit in my car for a minute and go,
Okay? You still have a girl out
is
there.
there like a campus officer or somebody who's good with that? Like anyone else I can be like, hey,
No, but there are, citizen police officers. Would you call them?
like just the cops?
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean,
Every other option's been wrong so far, but
this is a 16-year-old, right? And she's probably going past curfew. So the police need to take her home.
soon
So the police take her home. Is your job done?
not.
It's done.
Oh,
They're in custody of the police. You filled out a report. You've got people. Police are a trusted profession that will take this person to their home. Life is good. You've got a lot of cross sections in terms of, you call the police have a report on your call. Police are dispatched to the scene, which creates another report that covers you. Because
awesome.
what would happen if you're that really great teacher? It's like, you know what, this is a situation, I'll do it this one time. What could potentially happen? Just talk amongst yourselves. What could potentially happen in that car on that ride home?
Anybody can do that.
Principal
All right, let's bring it back real quick. So what could potentially happen? What could go wrong? What could go wrong? Anybody? Set you up. Yeah, could happen. Absolutely. You are not supposed to use technology, but does that student have a smartphone? Yeah, with a camera. And guess what? That student, and this is actually a situation that has happened. The student says, "Oh my gosh!"
Corkery.
Excuse me.
Sorry.
Corkery. So Tim Corkery, Mr. Corkery, it's the best teacher ever taking me home. Another great one that we've had too is there's a student that invites in a teacher because sometimes teachers take the counselor role, and the student texts the teacher, "I'm pregnant."
Oh God. I'm sure that went really well.
Yeah. So what does that mean? That means I'm inviting you because my boyfriend may be pregnant, or did you make me pregnant? And if you pull that and you're reading that in front of the superintendent, what does that mean? So that's why it's really important to keep that personal, professional thing. So, anyway, Tim and I are talking about here. Number one thing, go to your principal. Again, your principal is paid to take care of problems like these. And these are few and far between problems. But if you get into a situation where, like, gosh, dude, the principal is always a call away. The principal is the one that's going to be responsible to come to the situation where you and your principal can take this girl safely home and make sure that this doesn't happen again. There's two of you in the car, there's documentation that happens, and life is good. You're protected, you have to go home a little bit later, and you're anticipating that stinks, you're going to be tired in the morning. Really, you're safe. There's no kind of awful things that can happen. Tim, give him a round of applause. So, think about the stink test. You all have kind of that teacher idea of like, what's right and what's wrong. And that's going back to that dispositional framework that you all have. You've been taught this ever since you probably wanted to become a teacher. You have a dispositional framework of what you're doing. But there's that disposition, and that can only get you so far. You really got to be smart about some of the choices that potentially might happen. So, I have a teacher buddy. Mark McElvain was my teacher buddy. I would talk to him, he was a 6th grade teacher, and I would talk to him about about stuff that I thought didn't smell right, and we had documentation going along. I also had another second grade teacher that I had a file folder in her room. If something wasn't right, I'd just put a little date and be like, hey, Laura, this happened. If this comes back to me and this parent's really, really mad, here's really the whole context of the situation. Because if I get called into the principal's office with a parent in there, guess what I have? Hey, Laura, remember when we talked about this? Can you bring that folder that we talked about this situation before? Does that de-escalate it? I bet it does. Have a plan to do and what to do if a situation arises. Your plan right now, your initial intake, use your principal. That's what they're there for. You don't have a lot of background knowledge and experience of what to do. So utilize your principal as that resource. Make sure that you have a good communication with them, especially in during your practicum, because that potentially might be the person that's interviewing you for a job for 16 weeks. Don't ignore a situation because you think somebody else is already taken care of. That happens a lot in education. Oh my gosh, that is such an obvious situation. Somebody's got to be doing something about it, and I'm not going to waste my time because obviously it's already been taken care of. There's been numerous situations with sex with students in Wyoming that everybody thought, everybody knew about it, nobody had done anything. And then they kind of explode and open my heads. Lastly, document. Document is a great thing. I'm sure people have told you to document. If you're a special education teacher, you always have to document, required to document. But document, over document. Nobody was like, oh, I spent so much time documenting. I'm so regretful. No, document. Do it. And then there's our rules and regs. I'm not going to go through these, but this is basically what we hold you. There's a chapter in our rules and regulations that say you are not to do any of this stuff. And if you do it, your license could be in jeopardy. You could do a letter of reprimand, you could suspend your license, or you could completely revoke your license. Which leads me into, if that does happen, and somebody does complain against you, you start out by pulling your paper file from our huge file machines in our office. We put that into an investigative file. Once that's an investigative file, we summons and have an investigative committee. An investigative committee reviews your case with our prosecuting attorney general. That basically comes up with a decision on what to do. Sometimes we do nothing. Sometimes we do something. And if we do something, then there's this national clearinghouse called NASDAQ, which is a national association that holds all teachers that have been disciplined within the United States, that all states can see. School districts can see it now too. So if you're disciplined in Wyoming, we'll put you on that clearinghouse, and then every other state can see that. So essentially, there's really no other way to say this, but your degree's not for nothing. Unless you're going to go into like some private practice, in order to get licensed in the public school, people are going to see that, and it's going to be really tough for you to get licensed. So, do educators wake up and say, I'm going to do something really stupid? No. Typically what happens is they are operating in the gray area, and then it gets out of control. How does it get out of control? The one way that I see, technology. So please be careful with your technology. Number two, it's kind of not documenting and not really keeping vigilance on what's actually happening. The three, it's not having a plan. Just have a plan. If something starts to go awry, I don't care how small it is, start talking to people about it. Get some people's advice. You're brand new. You don't have a lot of experience in your belt from a school district standpoint, and that's okay. So rely upon your teaching mentors to do that. So again, it's about preventative maintenance because I don't mean to take all of your time. Again, because I started off this performance or this presentation, I said I'm hyper vigilant on this stuff because I deal with it every single day. And when I deal with it, it's not just about dealing with an educator. I'm dealing with it because an educator did something that affected somebody. And that somebody typically is a student. And it's just not worth it. So if we can prevent it, prevent people from doing that, that's kind of our job. So, I'll be around for questions. License questions, discipline questions, general questions. So I appreciate all of your feedback. Before you go, you can set the evaluations right here, and we will pick one of those